the TARDIS to going around the sun, there are a lot of ways to time travel. We are here to discuss the best and worst ways that we've been presented with, be they fictional or science. I could go into the whole quote of Doctor Who, but we're not going to do that. We don't have time for that. I am Myriam Lopez, dressed as Dr. Martha Jones from Doctor Who, and I am your host and moderator. I am here with the Time Travelers Unlimited, and these are our panelists. Please
I am Cody. I am Cody Schoberg, and I am the Doctor, the seventh Doctor, for the 1996 TV movie on Fox, Doctor Who.
How's it going, dudes? I'm John Dyer the Fifth, dressed as Bill S. Preston Esquire from the Bill and Ted movies.
I'm Kristi Schoeman. I'm Dr. Ann McGregor from The Time Tunnel.
I'm Lauren Goldman, Amy Pond from Doctor Who.
All right then, so we are going to talk about, however, are the best and worst time traveling devices that have been used to do the timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly through science fiction TV and movies. So some would argue that time travel is possible into the future, so past or present. One such way is the Philadelphia experiment. John, what do you think about that?
Well, in doing the research for this panel, I looked up the Montauk Project and the Philadelphia experiment, which are really rousing tales and kind of hair-raising, but as it turns out, both of them have actually been pretty much fully debunked. But the good part is that they take it back to the actual science that is proven of certain aspects of time travel that in a sense are already happening.
Oh, do you have your own way of time traveling?
My own way, you know, I prefer just doing it kind of therapeutically and not having to leave, you know, where I'm at, just kind of go into more of a trance and, you know, wake up in 1333.
Very good. I know that my sister-in-law and I used to do this meditation during Halloween that was really interesting, and it took us back to like a whole thing with witches in the forest, and it was like Cleopatra time, or you know, it was just a weird, because we did it different ways, different times, so several years, so it was different every time. It was very interesting, that self-visualization through time.
What was your technique that you used?
It was a ancestral meditation. Nice. It was a spiritual guided meditation that we would do every solstice. So, you know, time travel, when we hear the phrase time travel, we're usually thinking of traveling faster than 1 second per second. What's your opinion on the way that time travel has been portrayed from the various science fiction stories or movies or shows? Kristi, what do you think?
They have varied so much, from anomalies and primeval, which are naturally occurring, to depictions where man has created the device to travel, or ones that were created actually in outer space based on a TV show, such as Galaxy Quest and the Omega-13.
Cody, what is your take on that?
I mean, I've been a fan of it ever since the first moment I saw it, because it seems like just a fun thing to get to experience and to get to see, and maybe make the future a better place if you can.
And Lauren, what is your thought on that?
Yeah, it's, you know, as different as all of the ways are, there are such similarities that it's all tied together.
How do you mean? I'm just curious, how do you mean tied together?
Well, they all start at one spot and end up at another, whether you're actually moving in space and time or just in time. It's all kind of the same effect, right? So
yeah,
yes.
so yeah,
regardless of how you travel, it's all the same.
Yeah, so let's look at that, because you know, Kristi made a good point in dividing these into categories. So let's talk about our she said transportation, wearables, and just miscellaneous, like little quirky things. What criteria are you considering as we go into judging these categories? Are you going to look at aesthetics or functionality or just the overall, how it worked within the story? Let's go with John.
So what's my personal favorite way or device?
Yeah.
Well, it seems like magic is the most convenient and most effective and quickest, blink of an eye and then you're gone. So if that could be controlled properly, vortex manipulator, that would be most convenient to me.
Okay, so Cody, what are you taking into consideration?
I'm really looking into this. A lot of it is the safety of the time travel, how you come out of it. Like you may come out completely insane or lose parts of yourself. But as long as you come through whole mentally and physically, that tends to be a better machine than others.
Right. What about you, Kristi?
I like the practicality of it. Can you carry it with you and you don't have to worry about losing it? And can you actually choose where you end up?
Yeah, I saw this this fake documentary on the history of time travel, and the inventor, the scientist, had invented it with using an Atari system, and the first time that he used it, he went back a few seconds, so he came back to the same time frame where he was, but then quickly realized that it needed to be portable, so then he like rigged it so that he could wear it and then be able to fix time. So his wife had died and what have you, and then as he went back in time, every time that he made a change to the timeline, then he came back to a different timeline that had been created by that action. So then, as you're seeing the documentary progress, because it's a reporter interviewing these different scientists and government agencies and what have you, and they're talking about the scientists making a difference, and he went back in time to save his wife, what have you. So every time that they came back to that point, he saved his wife from a car accident. He saved his wife from this disease. He saved his wife from what have you.
Sort of like a Groundhog's Day.
Yeah, it was a different paradox every time. So that's interesting. The wearability of the device, and it all came around to eventually he didn't invent the device. So he put himself out of the timeline. So going back to bringing it back around to our devices, what do you consider the best and worst time traveling devices? Cody?
Well, I'd say the best is, my specific thing, the TARDIS. Come on, you can't beat that. It's comfort, it's style,
right.
It's safe. That's the biggest thing. You get there in one piece. You get there fine. The worst has got to be the machine from Primer, because you go through it, it can cause psychosis. You can get locked in it and stuck there. You need a second person to get you out of it. It's insane. And you always exist at the same time and have to return at a certain point so you can go back in time.
Right. Now, let's see. Lauren, what is your take on transportation devices? Let's go there.
You mean like a vehicle?
Like a vehicle, yeah.
I think definitely the TARDIS is the best, but any device pretty much is good. I don't know. I like the safety aspect, like Cody was saying. I like that you can take more people with you, and the comfort. Because who doesn't like to take a nap while they're traveling, and have a kitchen or in a bathroom? A bathroom is key. But yeah, I would go with a device or a transport like the TARDIS or the ship from Flight of the Navigator.
What about the worst?
Worst would be the time jump device from Men in Black 3. You have to jump from a really, really high point, and as you're falling, break the line to transport through time. So you have to hold onto this device while you're falling I don't even know how many, I don't even want to think about how many stories you have to fall to get enough speed to get the charge for the device, and then break it at the right time. You would be a splatter on the sidewalk.
It's funny, Lauren, Jim and I have this argument about Adam Strange, the comic character, he catches a zeta beam that he can plot out when it's going to come by, and he's got to be right there where it's coming by, and it takes him to another dimension, another planet. So the argument that is it time or not, but same kind of a thing where it doesn't always work out, like landing in the middle of a war or just not ideally.
So what is your favorite, John?
Well, you know, I mean, the phone booth thing is good, but the TARDIS definitely has more room for sure. You know.
Less George Carlin.
Hey.
Oh, wait. First, before I go to Kristi, sorry, Kristi. John, what's the worst?
Well, you know, I was talking about magic earlier, and, you know, being cursed, like, you know, one of the examples I said of being cursed to stay in time and never die, that's a kind of time travel, and that would majorly suck, right?
Oh,
or
yeah.
You'd have to adjust in a big way.
Right. Kristi, what's your take on those? Best
Well,
and
my
worst?
best would be the TARDIS. It's roomy inside, you know, bigger, and it gets you to and from, back and forth, past and future. But my least favorite would be the DeLorean from Back to the Future, because it's the biggest maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have tires, the right amount of power. You have to we have to remember where you parked it. And so many things could go wrong with it.
Well, we have a cell phone now, so you could easily find your car.
Now, a cell phone, wouldn't that be perfect as a device?
You know, that's a different conversation, I think. Well, that would bring us into the wearables, right? Because, you know, we have the watch from Somewhere in Time. So let's go there. So what do you think are the best and worst wearables for time traveling? Let's go with Lauren.
Oh God. The best I think is the vortex manipulator, but because again, you can take more than one person with you, and you have a little more control, time and place. Worse, I go for that. That's the time jump.
Well, it's small. You can hide it if need be. You land somewhere where, you know, not nice creatures are in your space. You can just be like, "What? What?"
Yeah. Yes. What about you, Cody?
Now, the vortex manipulator would be the best wearable, to be honest. It's compact. It you know, just fits on your wrist. And once again, you do get there safely. You get there in one piece. It's not like if if something went wrong with a magic spell and you were like splinched or something.
Right.
Splinch, great word.
But the worst. Yeah, I'm going to agree with the same thing on that time jump. I'm not good with heights. That'll just be a heart attack in the middle of the run.
You land passing out or coding.
Yes, Kristi, what do you think is the best wearable?
The time turners, they're fun to play with. You get to go backwards to it. You know, you can actually determine how far back you go. It's easy to carry, and just a lot of fun to play with. But the worst is also the big jump in Men in Black.
All right, John, it's your turn.
Well, you know, they all have their pluses and minuses, but when I was looking over our lists and things, I had forgotten about the Tesseract, and that book was so seminal in my upbringing. I identified so much with that little boy character, and so huge place in my heart in terms of, it's not really a wearable.
It's not wearable.
So, you know, favorite wearable, I got to go with vortex manipulator.
Very
It's
good.
stylish. You know, how can you go wrong with it?
Yep. All right, so that brings us to our miscellaneous category where the Tesseract lies. So let's start with you, John.
Well,
Best and worst.
So And what do we call the category a tesseract fits in?
Miscellaneous.
Oh, miscellaneous. Well, that's so wide open, you know. I mean, that's
Yeah,
almost
well,
an
you
unfair
have so
question.
many things.
You could literally say tesseract is the best and the worst because it got you there every time. But like, who was it? Meg in the book was like throwing up every time they landed. You know, I really like the idea of just being able to, well, okay. Favorite has to be what happened to me in real life. I was given the gift of this therapy session. It was called Row Hun, and I just laid on the couch, and they kind of moved their hands over me and never touched me. And the therapist said, "Let me know, you know, close your eyes. Let me know when you see something." I was like, "What?" My eyes are closed. Sure enough, a few moments later, with my closed eyes, like dream images, I saw these big cobblestones, and I proceeded to tell her that we were in the year 1333 in England, and you know, that was the best because it happened to me and it was real. But again, I didn't have to go anywhere except for to this school where it happened.
Okay, and the worst is the tesseract by your definition?
The worst miscellaneous, well, the cursing, you know, being cursed.
Oh,
For
yes.
kind of a thing, or dark magic.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Kristi?
My favorite is the time machine from the classic H.G. Wells movie, The Time Machine. It's got that nice velvety chair to sit in, and you can watch time go by as you're sitting there with all the things spinning around and all the, you know, it was just, I don't know, it was a really nice device to look at.
You're protected, you know, stylish.
Yes.
Yeah.
You go in style, yes. My least favorite would be the time tunnel. We still can't find Tony and Doug. We're able to pull people from the past history to us, but we can't pull our own people back.
Definitely
And
least
the
effective, right?
The
Yeah,
cost was
yeah.
ridiculous, and you have, in order to be tracked where you're going, you have to go through a radioactive blue mist. Come on.
Well,
5
you know, a
uses
lot of
per.
these things don't make sense. Lauren?
I mean, I don't know if it's the best, but I really like the map from the Time Bandits. It's really cool the way they have it all mapped out, and you can track where the next portal is. And the problem is oftentimes they end up falling through it and landing on things like chickens and water troughs and people.
True.
So, I mean, that's not a fun landing, but it's effective. You know where you're going, you know when you can go to where you want to go. And, you know, it's pretty, who doesn't like a good map, you know?
Yeah, very true.
Compass.
Cody?
Yeah?
The map is pretty nice, but I got to really skip to the worst. I like the time tunnel, but not the time tunnel. The quantum leap accelerator. That thing, you don't know where you're going. You never know when you're getting home. You don't know who you are. And you can you can die while you're out there, but nobody knows it's you.
Good
It
points.
seems like the worst thing it's the worst time travel ride you'll ever be on.
The Bizarro time device.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, you know, in doing research, we found like all these different things, like the Wayback Machine from Mr. Peabody and Sherman on the Rocky and Bullwinkle show, and I had completely forgotten about that. And
You know,
Cody
there's
listed it on his, put it on his list, and I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, you know, there's
I'm
the
going to
new
amend
movie
that and
of
say
it.
that's my favorite there. That one. My
But
favorite miscellaneous.
you can't change your answer.
I never said what my favorite was. I skipped
Oh.
that so I could go to
Yeah.
worst.
yes, you did.
True. Dimensions.
Sounds good. All right, so
I like the idea of the hot tub time machine, but in actuality, it's terrible.
Mhm.
You're wet. You can't bring anything with you. You're naked, or as good as. It's just like,
And what happens if you land in winter?
yeah.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a can of Chernobyl.
Ah, yes, Chernobyl.
well, you know, if you land in the, you know, Buckingham Palace, she would not be amused, the queen.
No, unless you're Benedict Cumberbatch.
Well, then, you know.
I
You
don't
never
think
know.
I'm displeased with that.
She might be like, another time traveler. Who knows what the Queen's been privy to?
True.
So one of the things that also kind of popped up on my feed as I was doing research for this thing was like the reality of what we can actually do through time travel, you know, currently. And that was really interesting because, you know, we are actually time traveling now, even though it's not in the way that we think of time travel when you talk about it, right? We're going at the, you know, not faster than the speed of light. We're not traveling way far in the future. And I actually did this little thing with my kids when they were really young, where I took them to school and I'm like, you know, you guys want to do some time travel experiment? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, let's go downstairs to my car. And when we get out of the car, it'll be 15 minutes later. And so we drove to their school. I'm like, you know, here we are 15 minutes later.
Yeah, and when you think about the speed that our planet that we are on this moment, how fast that puppy's hurtling through space.
Oh yeah, it's like a whole like, so to travel through time itself, the amount of energy that it would take to get to there, but you know, that's all like really complicated, like really very complicated, you know, not to quote the doctor or anything. but it is kind of complicated in the physics part of it, you know, technology wise we're not there. When do you guys think we would probably get to do some time traveling?
Like with an actual device and actually do like movie style time travel?
Well, maybe not necessarily
Because look,
movie style, because a lot of it is kind of
We're
ridiculous.
time
Like,
traveling right now. March has lasted like 137 days.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen. Amen.
very
And how
true.
do we know that it isn't already a reality? They just aren't letting people know about it because it's dangerous.
Oh, that brings a good point, actually, because there is a documentary that shows like all this proof of time travel is already been discovered, because they have found various devices throughout history going back to like the prehistoric era, where they found this hammer, and it wasn't rusted, but that hammer is out of time. Like it's not
That's cool.
correspondent to that time frame. And then I think there's like a church in Germany that has some carving into like the side of it, and it depicts a prehistoric creature, like the one that has the triangles on its back. I forget what it's
Is
called.
that Triceratops?
A stegosaurus.
Yeah.
Stegosaurus,
that's
yes,
it.
Stegosaurus on it, but we hadn't discovered dinosaurs yet when that building was constructed. So
Or-
like there's like these different things, or like the skulls that they found, there's like supposed to be like 7 or 8 of them.
Or that
And
one
they-
cave drawing of the TARDIS?
Well,
Or the
Yeah.
thing that looks like it?
something that looks like it. But you know, they have all these different devices that have shown up through time and in pictures. There's a picture of this guy holding, like has shades, a t-shirt and flannel, kind of like dressed like like John is right now. And he's out of time because the people in that, it's like 1920s or something like that when that picture was taken. And he's got like these shades that hadn't been invented yet. And
Or you
in
see
Russia,
Nicolas Cage, back in history.
right?
Did you see
Right.
those photos? Yes.
Speaking of Nicolas Cage, he's on my ceiling.
Wait, what is that?
Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Oh, I love that movie. So,
Or the lady who's holding like the cell phone up to her ear in the Charlie Chaplin film?
Which could also be the hearing device she was holding.
Well, yes.
I don't
but
know. You'll have to send me that article. Those ones, they test my doubt meter goes off.
well, let's see. So I have tallied up the results for our who's the best and what's the best and worst categories. So, you know, in the different categories, so we have the transportation devices. Of course, the TARDIS takes #1 ranking on that category. I mean, it is the favorite. There's plenty of room. There's plenty of outfits that you can change into to fit into the era and blend in.
It
Right?
feeds you. It
feeds you.
messes with your brain.
Right. There's no motion sickness like there is.
Well, no.
Got a beautiful
You
bathroom.
know, that
Well,
stuff
you
happens a
know,
lot.
you hit some turbulence every now
That
and
Star
then.
Trek thing. Whoa.
It's because he flies with the brakes on.
Oh,
Well,
he forgot the TARDIS has an emergency brake.
And then in the wearable category, we have the Vortex Manipulator, took #1 there. And then in our miscellaneous category, it's pretty much up for debate. It's as varied as there are devices in that category.
As it should be, right? Because
Right.
who knows what the real actual time travel device, I mean, an hourglass, right? That's a time
Yep.
travel device.
Pretty much, yeah. So I think we have our decision in this panel of, you know, the transportation definitely took #1. I think it's got the most popular votes. I mean, 4 people, like all 4 of you, voted for the TARDIS.
Well, we're no dummies. We have been back and forth in time, right?
Right, exactly. So, you know, so thank you so much for participating in today's panel. Thank you everyone for watching. We are the Time Travelers Unlimited. Thank you for all your time. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.